Hi, Brendan Cunningham here, the real estate doctor at EXP. We are the real guys, and we're going to give you the real story. With me today is Matt Paul, my partner. Right? Matt Paul, he does it all. Yes, and we are filled with thrills and spills, and we're going to give you the real story. That's the key to this show. This show is for everybody. It's for people that are buying, people that are selling, people that are investing, people that maybe relocating, and it's for people that are in the business or thinking about getting in the business. So from time to time, we're going to have people drop in. And, I'm thinking we're going to have a drop in today because I ran into somebody just a few minutes ago. But before we bring that person on, part of the point I wanted to make there is things just happen in the real estate business, and you have to be ready to make adjustments. We weren't planning on having a guest today, but somebody drops in, they got something to say, let's bring them on. But in the meantime, before we bring them on, we'll just have them sweat out there for a little bit. Let's talk about Matt. Now, I talked a little bit about myself last week. I'm kind of the fairy godfather. I've been doing this forever. This is my first book. I'm the guy that literally gets to say, I wrote the book on real estate, Tricks of the Trader, Real Estate Brokers, Inside Advice on Buying and Selling Home. What's interesting about this is I wrote this 20 years ago, and 90% of this stuff is still true, still applies, except the stuff about the internet. Because as I was telling Matt, I said, nobody was really using the internet 20 years ago, 2004. They just weren't. It was kind of a novelty that it existed, but no one was using it. So this is not my first tour. I've been doing this for a long time, working on book number 5 at this point. But before we bring in this surprise guest, let's talk about Matt. Matt, what's your story? What have you been doing? What did you do? Is it true you were a mortician before you came in?
Yeah, no, definitely not a mortician before.
I actually knew a guy who was a mortician. He wanted to go back to being a mortician. He was stiff anyway. Get that guy.
Well, literally. Yeah, so I have a rich history here in Western New York, where my family created, they used to own a stationery supply company. So my family created the first address book here in Buffalo, New York, before there was a phone book. So, and my dad still has it.
I love the phone book.
Yeah, and just go through. I remember how big it was and how monotonous it was, and when they drop it off every year. So, yeah, we actually still have the original version. It looks like the old Holy Grail. But yeah, so my family was in the stationery supply business, which evolved into the teacher's supplies. It ended up being Paul's Teacher's Pet at the end. It started off as Peter Paul Stationery, but it was in the family since the 1860s. And then, yeah,
I'm impressed. Before the Civil War.
Yeah, before electricity. So, yeah, it lasted many years, well over 100 years, 4 generations of my family. So I come from business, entrepreneur family, both sides. My mom's side was in the construction, and my dad's side was in the merchants or blue collar, more or less, business. And then I went into hotel restaurant management, lived all over the world, worked all over the world, and then came back to Buffalo in 2008 and went into construction with my father for 8 years. And then after that, got into real estate. So it's all encompassing customer service, construction, and then entrepreneurship was, strong in my blood.
It's interesting about the real estate business. Traditionally, a lot of people got into real estate after they had done other things. And I always found that very interesting because the other things, I think, in many respects, help them to become better realtors.
It complement.
They learn like construction, things like that. That's a good skill set, which I didn't have, and I'll learn it on the job. But we're seeing more and more younger people come into the business, which is interesting. But I see my guest. My guest is coming in, Michelle. Michelle, come on down. You want to talk to us about, what did you say? The hottest deal in town? I want to hear about the hottest deal, and we can scoop you. We will. Michelle, take it away. Hottest deal in town. I'm giving you this seat.
Brendan, thank you. Thanks, Matt and Brendan, for having me.
That's Michelle. Okay.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do. I have a great condo on the waterfront downtown. It is completely remodeled. Great area, rooftop patio, so you got outdoor space, quartz countertops. I'm holding it open this weekend, actually, 1 to 3. So, but it's a great place to be. You've got the nightlife, you've got the water. It's a great unit, great building. They're redoing their gym, so it'll be a new state-of-the-art gym. So it's really a great condo.
Look at the address there.
203 Admiral's Walk.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to slide back in here, and I'm going to be your devil's advocate and say, it's a great condo. What makes it so great? How is it priced?
Well, I got it at $465, so it's under $500,000, right on the water. So that's a really good real good deal. You've also got, you're there with the nightlife and the new the restaurants down there. It's Canal Side. And we all know Canal Side is always going to continue to grow and the value of those homes are going to continue to increase. So,
Yes, I fully would concur with that.
Yeah.
Any special assessments that I need to know about?
well, I'll tell you, there were quite a few special assessments in the last 3 years for those units, and they were high. And all the major ticket items have been done. So when the new buyer goes into this, the seller paid a $25,000 special assessment. It included the roof, it included the generator, the boilers, the elevators. So all those major ticket items have been complete recently. So a new buyer goes in, they will have nothing to worry about for a long time.
So let me ask you, if I bought another unit that was comparable to this, but it wasn't this unit, would I have to pay the special assessment going in?
If the seller did not pay it.
Oh,
might have
and that's a
Yeah.
fairly strong possibility.
Yeah,
That's
that
what
could
you're-
very well be. So my seller decided that they were going to pay so that the new buyer would be able to go in on a clean slate, and it was $25,000, and he did it. So
Okay.
yeah,
And you are going to be open this week. And now some of you may notice, even though I'm off the camera right now, can you see my red arm? You can see my really good. I'm wearing my Christmas sweater here. Okay. It's not Christmas Day yet. And since Christmas falls on a Wednesday where we normally shoot these podcasts, we're doing it on a Monday. But you know what? You're there this weekend. It's
Yeah.
not Christmas. It's not New Year's. It's kind of in between.
that's right. So come on in and take a look at it. Great unit. There'll be Prosecco and Christmas cookies there.
Tell just Prosecco,
That's right.
my drug of choice.
1 to 3 on Saturdays. So,
Beautiful.
but thanks guys for having me. This is a great show.
And that's how we do it. If we have something going to drop in from the sky, they're going to come right in. Thank you, Michelle. Beautiful. Yeah, that sounds like a good deal. I know that. I mean, I've been sort of looking in Florida, and a lot of times you'll see the prices are coming down in Florida. But one of the reasons why the prices are coming down, especially, is with some of the condos because of the special assessments, and they can be crippling.
As well as the homeowners insurance down
They
there.
add that on top of the homeowners insurance. So that's a thing now. And what Michelle has done, and again, anyone you see on this screen, that's a real estate agent that's going to be talking to us. They're going to give you the real story. They're not going to pull any punches, and they are at the top of their profession. EXP is where the pros go. That's because we know what we're doing, and we want to make sure that the people that we work with get the best care that they can. Now, one of the things that Michelle did was she was very, very smart in marketing that property the right way, because one of the bugaboos, one of the first questions that's going to come up is probably, what about special assessments? Already handled it, way ahead of you. So that's what a good agent does. They think the thing through. They just don't slap a sign up and do what they used to. Well, there was a song in the 50s, wishing and hoping and dreaming and praying. They don't do that. They actually take the time to do things. Okay. Now, back to some of the things we were talking about last week. So you've had a varied background. I've had a varied background. Between the two of us, we've got over a half a century. Just between the two of us, we've got over a half a century of business experience in real estate. Okay? Important. No substitute for experience. There is no substitute for experience. What was the expression? Youth and energy are no match for old age and treacheries. Nah, that's right. When you're old, you need to use that stuff. You gotta get his word right.
Made that up pretty quickly.
Yeah. So let's talk about one of the other hot ticket items we're hearing about is rates.
Yep.
What are they doing? Up, down, they're all over the place, right?
As we mentioned last week on that episode, historically they're still lower on average than.
Lower than average.
So
Then since they'll be keeping records.
Yep. So it's really, it's a little bit shocking or alarming to some of the buyers in the market and sellers right now that are thinking about selling because they might be locked into a 3 or 4% rate. That is going to be, quite unlikely for us to ever see that again in our lifetime from what I've heard, and realistically, if we're down low 6s, high 5s by the end of 2025, that would be really good. And it's still going to be 3% below the average.
Yeah.
So, the rates aren't going to be going down like we saw after the pandemic and the pent up demand of the market and being forcibly shut down and all of that. A lot of those different, factors were part of it. And hopefully we never see that again. But at this time, to sit on the fence and to wait for the rates to go down, all you're doing is allowing the prices of homes to steadily increase.
Train of going so fast out of the station that if you're playing the rate game, you will lose.
Yes.
Pretty much guaranteed. And the worst part is you think you won. It's like the ultimate cop. It's sometimes there's like little windows of opportunity where it all falls into place. But generally speaking, the prices will go up faster than the rates will come down. And that's it. Oddly enough, since we did our last session, which was actually our first session, the Fed lowered the rate. That's the Fed rate. The other rates went up. So it's a complicated formula. One day we'll use the whiteboard here and show you how it works. It's kind of a tedious explanation, but so what you're only interested in is the rate that you're paying the bank.
Are you able to explain, Brendan, how, if the Feds drop the rate 0.25% or 1%, how it does not directly affect interest rate?
Not in 25 words or less. Okay, save that.
We'll dig into that next time.
Whiteboard.
Yep.
But look at this. You got to turn your phone off. Okay. Chilling saying, bring me some stuff here.
No distractions.
Oh my God, this is live. It's the real story, and it happens.
Yep.
So inventory, up, down. What do we think?
So from what I've been seeing the last couple of weeks, and now again, we are, tomorrow is Christmas Eve. So we're right in the middle of the holiday season. Normally you're seeing in just our area, about 30 to 50 houses hitting the market every day, on average. The past week, I've been seeing more in the 20s, 27 to 30. So it seems like it's down a little bit from the years prior, but ultimately it's kind of in line with this time of year. So, but again, as we mentioned last week in our first episode, there's still multiple offers going on in certain areas, and it's still hot in specific pockets or markets.
I'll tell you, it's an interesting story about, how there's a seasonability with who's buying houses on Christmas Eve and all this kind of stuff. Yep. Back in the olden days, when real estate was a little different, one of the things that was very common practice, there were still a few really archaic traditional offices out there that still do this. It was goofy years ago, but it's much goofier now. They would have this thing called floor time. And what would happen is an agent would sit on floor time and they would wait for the phone to ring, and the phone would ring on any of the listings that they had in inventory. And the agent would proceed to tell them about whatever they called in on, and maybe they could convert that call to a prospect and get a showing at it. That was the theory. It didn't work all that well even way back when, because invariably the listing agent would get in your face and say, well, you stole my call. Well, that was my key.
I was in the office too. Why didn't I get that?
Get that call. And what happened over the years is there was a transition where offices had to contend with the fact that, the listing agent, they had their name on the sign. They should probably have first dibs on the call. Okay. So that was a whole big mishmash. But prior to writing this book, because I remember this, something that happened over 20 years ago. I can remember walking in the office on Christmas Eve. I would always go in on Christmas Eve, say hello, goodbye, and Christmas Eve. I'm wearing my Christmas sweater again. And it was an agent who was a top-notch agent, and she was sitting on floor time. It was 11 o'clock Christmas Eve in the morning, and the phone rang, and she picked up a call, and she proved something that I've been saying for years. And what I was saying for you is, I said, you know what? I've never not seen somebody come into the office or a call come in for a hot prospect on Christmas Eve. It's happened every year. And I was in the business for 20 years at that point. And she proved my orange. And now they didn't want somebody to come out to the house on Christmas Eve, but they set up an appointment for 2 days later, and then she converted it. It was a nice sale for her. But nobody wanted to go in the office on Christmas Eve. You had to be an idiot to go in the office on Christmas Eve. Or you had to be somebody that knew how the system worked. So there's activity out there, believe it or not. There's not as much. There aren't as many people buying in December. But you know what? It's probably maybe 2/3 less. But there's still a third of the people that are out there. And anyone that's out there in this month, we had a football game yesterday. What was it, 9 degrees? Freeze your ass off on that. And I'm going to say, excuse me, because there were actually frozen buttocks in the snow there. No one wants to go out. No one wants to do anything. They want to stay home in their cocoon with their hot chocolate. Anyone that's looking in this kind of weather and the snow, they are red hot. They are buying.
Syria.
They're buying. This Syria.
Yep.
And I can remember one of my agents, we used to call her the king of the snowstorm. She'd be out in snowstorms. She had the biggest book in the business.
I was speaking of floor time, when I got in the business, we had that at my first brokerage that I worked at. And there was a gentleman in the office that worked phones I think it was every Easter. And he would pick up business almost consistently every year. And he was the only one in the office, the only one that would do it. And, it worked. So, even though floor time is not something that really is, like you said, is seen too often anymore.
Become somewhat archaic.
Yeah. Yep. And most of the time you were transferring calls between agents and things like that. So it wasn't, it was a time to get some busy work done, but it wasn't like, nailing leads left and right. But at the end of the day, it's still something that we all kind of did to help the office.
Yeah. And the industry's changed. As I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned here, but I mentioned it certainly before. This book here, almost all of it is the same, except for the part about the internet. The internet changed the way people find properties. In the olden days, this is before your time. It's almost before my time. The book.
You held the kryptonite of all the information.
They were what they call ML books, and they looked like phone books. They were like giant phone books, and they had the pictures of all the houses, and they were fun to read.
And weren't they only printed like monthly? So it was not 100% up to.
Well, the actual book came out every 2 weeks, and then you got what they call a comp book, which was closed sales that would come out once. I want to say once a month, and you had to subscribe. And what typically what the office would do is the office would keep a copy for themselves, and they'd have it at the front desk. This was the best part. A lot of the agents that didn't subscribe because they either didn't have the money because they're just starting out in the business, or they say, well, screw it. Why should I pay all that money when I could just use the office's book? Yeah. They used to have to lock the book up. And I can remember walking into one office, and sometimes they put a skull and crossbones on it, or they'd write stolen on the book. So if you, who's got the book? Right? You had to stick it under your coat. It was crazy. Now with this little computer here, that's the book. But the funniest thing I ever saw was not only did the book had the skull and crossbones on the front, it had the stolen on the back. The bicycle chain.
Well, yeah, was they tied to that?
They had the bicycle chain and they tied it to the desk. You ready? I came in the next day. Somebody had cut the bicycle chain. But everyone home, they came in. Because you needed the information.
That important.
And when the internet came in, everyone was totally petrified. The National Association of Realtors warned people, said, we got to do something here, or we're going to go the way of the travel agent. Didn't happen. And the reason why they thought that is because we were no longer the keepers of the information, the book. The information is online. You can get more information online than you could ever hope to get from a real estate agent. However, our stocks still continue to go up. Our stock is higher now than ever. For sale by owners are the lowest rate, I think, probably almost in history. They typically rob around 10%. But you know what? They made this the transaction so complicated that you need us to interpret the information. And as I tell people, you need us to sort out the information, what's real, what's not. There are certain websites that should remain nameless. Don't pull it out of me. It's like fantasy land. None of the information is accurate. So there's the information that didn't get out on this little machine here. And then there's the misinformation. We spend a lot of time sorting out the misinformation from our clients because they come in and they say, well, I thought this. And I say, and that's when we try to cushion and say, well, you thought wrong. Let me set you straight here. Again, we're not going to pull any punches. Because why? We want to tell you the truth. And there's a lot of crazy stuff out there.
And to your point, though, it's real easy to access the information, and from all the different third-party sites, you can get, listing information, you can get some demographic information, but how you understand, interpret, break it down is one thing. And then also knowing what is actually true or not, because there's a lot of misinformation and normally that goes in home values. And, if you're searching your own house or searching a property that you're interested in and you're trying to drive values from, a computer program and not actual comps, then you're going to be misled 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, and some of the information that's available on the internet, we're not really supposed to talk about anymore, which we used to talk about. Example, schools. We're really not to talk too much about schools because it's all public information, And if we talk about it, it could be perceived sometimes as steering, which is a really negative word in the real estate business. And becomes a fair housing issue.
You real so to their jail.
Yeah, sure. Real estate jail. So a lot of times you'll ask something, and say, you know what? Let me direct you to this website here. You get everything you need to know, but we're afraid to ask about this particular school system. And sometimes it's important information. Schools are critically important. And many times when we say, where do you want to live? They'll say, well, I need to live in Lancaster. You say, why do you need to live in Lancaster? They say, because my son goes to whatever the school. I think there's 5 different school districts in Lancaster.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I think Iroquois, Orchard Park, Lancaster.
Well, they're not all in the town of Lancaster.
No, but they're
Within that area.
within the township.
Yeah.
There's a bunch, and then we have to break down further from Lancaster. So it becomes complicated what we can say, what we can't. So, and that's a factor of being a realtor in 2024. So there.
Yep.
All right. What's the one thing that I should avoid if I'm looking to buy a house in 2024? Matt, take it away.
In 2025.
5. Oh,
What's that you? 30. So among us, the one. Can you reword the question?
yeah. What's the one thing you want to avoid if you're looking to buy a house?
I would say taking on any new debt, opening up new credit cards, putting yourself in a worse position as a buyer right now if you're looking to make a move, in the near future.
Yeah, because if you take on new debt, what happens? Your credit score goes down.
And your debt to income ratio, which, and that's really how they, the banks decide how much they'll lend to you is how much leverage debt you already have, how much is available to you. And then, if I've had probably in my career 5 or 6 clients that I've advised not to do anything. Don't finance furniture.
Nothing.
Don't get a new car. Don't change jobs. And that one or the other would happen, and then you're at the closing table or right before when the banks rerun the numbers again, they find out that there's a new line of credit opened,
and they're going to find out.
Yep.
They look up everything the day before to make sure it's the same deal.
And they will pull the plug the last minute, no matter how much time, money and effort is investing.
Oh dear.
Yep. Yeah. So
we heard one recently, Joel, our senior associate team leader. Yeah. He said, oh, it was a nightmare. He says, these people, they went out, they bought a house, and they're ready to close. And what do? They walked into, I don't know, Raymond Flanagan. One of them better, the furniture stores, they charged like $20,000 worth of furniture because they needed furniture. Yeah, you can't do that before you close. Don't do it. You damn you close, you can buy anything you want.
You could pay cash for it. You can't finance it.
No, and they give you sweetheart deals, no interest for 35 years and all this. You can't do it.
Yeah, it still affects
you. You could do it. It's just they're going to negatively affect. And that deal did not close. I think it took them like 3 months to swing it around, and luckily the buyers and sellers hung in. But yeah, don't do that. That's an absolute. All right, we got a couple more minutes in the final stages of our descent pattern here. That 4 minutes left.
Yep.
We want to keep it to our 30-minute block. We're probably going to do a pre-recorded show for next week too, just because you don't want to come in on New Year's Day because you're too drunk.
Yeah.
No. Not a thing. He's a good boy. He behaves himself. But yeah, we're seeing all kinds of interesting trends and changes, and it's an exciting time to be in the real estate business. I think, and one of the reasons why I'm still doing it is because I love it. I'm doing it in a slightly different capacity, but in my capacity and in Matt's capacity, we're still looking for people that want to work with us as buyers and sellers. We're still looking for people that want to work with us and want the real deal. They want the real story. We're not going to mince words. We're not going to coddle you. We're going to get the job done. Much like a good doctor, and I call myself the real estate doctor because I'm not. I got to tell you the truth. You get to say yes, I want the operation. No, I don't want the operation. These are the risks. I'm going to give you the risk reward ratio, and then it's up to you. I recently had a what do you call that thing up there? Rotator cuff, and I'm still going for physical therapy. I got attacked by a dog. And the physical therapist started out and he said, here's the deal. He says, we're going to do physical therapy for you and see how that does. He says, if it doesn't seem to improve dramatically, we'll go for surgery. He says, and I said, what does the surgery entail? When they told me what it entailed and what the upside was and the downside was, because as much as it's a risk, I'm in pretty good shape. I'm going to have some soreness probably the rest of my life. I looked and I said, yeah, we're not doing the surgery. That's not a thing. He says, well, let me tell you. I said, no, we're not doing the surgery. Okay. It's just the way it is. I'm not going to have you guys screw it up further.
So potentially the side effects could have been worse than actually.
I think, and that it was up to me though. Somebody else would say, oh yeah, get the surgery. Yeah. And you know what? And sometimes it just doesn't turn out right. Ask Joan Rivers on that. She was not looking to check out. She went in for what they considered minor surgery. And anytime these guys get their hands on it, sometimes the body doesn't perform the way it's supposed to. It's not the doctor's, it's your fault. But okay. So yeah, if you're looking to buy, looking to sell, if you're looking to join our teams, come on down.
Feel free to reach out.
EXP is the greatest business model I have seen since I got into real estate 2 generations ago. And unfortunately, it could not have existed when I got in. If it could exist, I would have been there back then. But yeah, what makes it work is the fact that we can use the technology to its maximum right now. So if you're looking to join the real estate world as an agent, get a hold of us. If you're looking to buy or sell, get a hold of us. You can get Matt, you can get me, you can get the both of us, buy one, get one free, whatever it is. We are here to help. We don't sell anybody. Sell's a 4-letter word. It's not in our vocabulary. We're here to help you. And by embracing that philosophy, it makes it a nicer business for us too, because we don't have to feel like sharks. And a lot of people, no pressure. So I'll let you do the closing here. What else you got for us?
So yeah, I just want to say thank you again for tuning into us. We want to continue to do this regularly. We're looking for feedback and input from all of our listeners. We're going to ramp up for 2025, and Brendan has a bunch of good guests that he has in mind.
Yeah, we have some interesting people coming down the way.
We're going to start bringing in some more people just to try to provide more value for everyone. So, again, feel free to give us feedback, and thank you for your time and watching us. And we look forward to speaking with
sort of stuff. Merry Christmas, and guess what? This is first where Hanukkah actually falls on Christmas, and that is special. Festival of Miracles and Christmas all at the same time. It's a beautiful thing. Catch you next time.
Thank you for tuning in.